So you're ready for your first... Hi there. Okay. But hold your horse over here. I'll call you to the stage. So. Arthur, you are here, so we can start now, eh? Good afternoon. I see that the most important people are inside, so I think we can start with session number 3, which is about implementation and operation. My name is Michel Russen. I am the Managing Director of the ERTMS Users Group. And Jean-Michel Evangelou explained that UIC is the technical body of the railways for the telecommunication part in ERTMS. The Users Group is the technical body of the railways for the ETCS part of ERTMS. And nowadays, with our sister company EU Links, we are also providing what we call the technical workbench, the technical experts for the work in the system pillar of EU Rail. So this gives you kind of an indication of the ERTMS Users Group. I'm not going to repeat the 13 members which we have, but I can repeat what I said 2 years ago. If you want to know more, www.ertms.be, and you can find all the information about the Users Group. I hope that we also have a slide where you can see the program of this session. Correct, good. So what are we going to do? This is not going to be the first presentation about what has been done in terms of deployment and operation of ERTMS, because this was already stolen, this opportunity, by the CEO of ADIF in session number 1, who explained about the success of ERTMS in Spain. So you already got one interesting, let me say, example of how ERTMS is operated and also providing success. We are now going to talk about a couple of others. Some of the speakers are not here yet. I'm just hoping that they will come in time, but they also are attending something called a stakeholder platform board meeting. But luckily, we can already start with saying something about the updated Swiss strategy. And we can also already talk about the rollout of ERTMS in the Czech Republic. That'll come second. So we will now first start, and hopefully by the time that Radek and Jindrich have finished their presentation, that also Jochen Bultink has come to talk about the Belgium thing, or Fabio about the Italian experience. So we give the floor. Or maybe I should also introduce this a little bit. As you know, the first country which was fully ready to accommodate ERTMS trains was Luxembourg, correct. But the second country was Switzerland, because they had this revolutionary strategy of deploying level 1 limited supervision, making sure that all the trains equipped, baseline 3 trains equipped with ERTMS, of course, then could run in their country. And they had a wonderful presentation about how they would then successively replace the older interlockings and then also install level 2. That is what I remember of it. But it seems that the strategy has been revised. So we are very pleased to hear from Raphael and Patrick what exactly then has changed in the strategy of Switzerland. Gentlemen, welcome over here. The floor is yours.
Thanks for the flowers, Michel, and good afternoon. We are honored to present the updated Swiss ERTMS strategy. I will do the introduction, Patrick will talk about the contents, and I will draw some conclusions from that and the summary. You can download, if you're interested in the full text. We will only make you, draw your attention on the essence of it, but you can download it in 3 languages, German, French, and English. A quick word about the Federal Office of Transport in Switzerland. It's not just the NSA, it's also the supervisory authority for safety, finance, infrastructure, legal and political frameworks for public transports in Switzerland. So, a brief overview of the Swiss network. The bluish lines up there, this is the interoperable network in Switzerland. The red lines in the mountain areas are narrow gauge. It's all mixed traffic, not separated tracks for freight or for passengers. Now, the meaning of the statement on the left side, interoperable since 2018, Michel has mentioned it already. We've deployed level 1 limited supervision across the whole network. This gives options to railway undertakings to purchase new rolling stock with ERTMS only, without national systems, or for elderly rolling stock, which may be decommissioned anyway within the following 5 to 10 years, they could still run with the national systems. But of course, this is only an intermediate step. Our target is to have cap signaling across the whole interoperable network, and without overlay, a pure level 2 implementation. Some figures with this. You see, speaking about the onboard, we have already 500 vehicles equipped with baseline 3 only, without any national system, and they are able to run across the whole network. More than 50% of the fleets are retrofitted, but you see baseline 2, it's not the latest baseline. So the story is not finished for them, to look at that way. Looking at the lines, 260 kilometers with cap signaling level 2, this is less than 10%. So when will we be at 100%? Question mark. I leave it open for the moment. The lines that we have deployed with cap signaling so far are mostly new lines, many with speed over 160 kilometers per hour, where cap signaling is compulsory in Switzerland. And it's still all with mixed traffic. Looking at the strategies, here we have a long story of more than 20 years already, that the priorities may have changed within those 20 years since the year 2000, but the common denominator has always been the same target, cap signaling level 2 only. And here we are now with the ERTMS strategy of 2023. Now to Patrick.
So we are facing a few big challenges when it comes to modernizing our signaling system. On this slide, you see a map of the SBB network. Every dot is a station, every color is an interlocking type. What we see is something like a patchwork of different interlocking types, of different interlocking technologies, and different life cycles. We have a few more challenges too. Just cite a few of them, and one of the main ones is modern technologies has usually a shorter life cycle and is usually more expensive than old technology. We don't want that, but it's a fact usually. And one of the reasons is that safety requirements always go up. So safety is good, but the question is how much are we ready to pay for it? The main takeaway of this slide for me is we have a huge need for renewal and standardization of our signaling equipment. And this does not depend on ERTMS or not ERTMS. Just a comment, I don't hear if Raphael told you, we have no mixed signaling in Switzerland. So we are nowhere line side signaling and cab signaling at the same place because we find it very expensive and complex. Now to these slides. On the left, no, on the slide we speak about why we have so few lines with level 2 in Switzerland. And on the left you see, from the point of view of rolling stock, for the RU, they see high costs and no benefits. In the middle, the point of view of trackside, well, many people say that level 2 is more complex, level 2 is more expensive, level 2 is less reliable, and you cannot use it in a station because of limited performance. And on the right, some soft factors which play a role too. Many people are still waiting for the revolution. I mean, with revolution, signaling in the cloud, moving block, you can change any element of your system with something from another supplier. Well, it's a nice thing, and we hope it will come. But a big mistake would be to wait for that and do nothing in the meantime. Our approach for refreshing our strategy, it was to begin with interview and discussion with most stakeholders, like infrastructure managers, railway undertakings, the industry, and also the train drivers. And in the center of the strategy, we have the need for more homogeneity, for standardization, and for cab signaling, because we believe that these are enablers for digitalization. Now, to the measures which are defined in the strategy. The one which gave most to talk about was that we write that all renewals and all new lines must use ETCS level 2. It was not always so clear in the past. At some times it was clear, at some times it was not clear. And there may be exceptions, but they must be justified. And to achieve this objective, we expect the infrastructure manager to develop deployment plans for level 2 until the end of next year. We have many other detailed measures. One of the main is making ETCS level 2 fit for big nodes. Today, we are not sure if level 2 can offer the performance we need in big nodes with suburban trains. We think it should be okay, but we are not sure. Another point has been discussed many times in the last 2 days. We have to reduce the costs for retrofitting and maintaining onboard equipment. We have to. And speaking about performance, there is a measure which is not on this slide, but we have in the strategy. It is modernizing freight trains. And we have heard that the European Union and Switzerland too are planning digital automatic coupling, but it seems it will not include the electro-pneumatic brake. So this means our super digital freight trains, they will still brake just like 100 years ago, and they will still need something like 30 seconds until the last wagon brakes. For me, as a signaling engineer, it's well, a little surprising. Last thing, just for illustration, you see here the BLS, it is the second biggest infrastructure manager in Switzerland, has begun establishing deployment plans for ETCS level 2. That's just an example here. They evaluate the scenarios, they compare the different scenarios, financial issues and things like that, and well, I hope that they will find a good solution. Raphael?
So the evergreen question, how it will be financed. Let me start with the situation today. Half of the costs of a railway system operation in Switzerland is funded. And it includes maintenance of assets, means renewals, that means also including trackside signaling, speaking about the infrastructure managers first. So ERTMS is part of the trackside signaling in that sense. So there is currently no specific additional funding for ERTMS. But secondly, speaking about railway undertakings, they only receive funding from regions to provide services for regional traffic. So, but what we are investigating in the following 2 years is to find good justifications. We need a good evidence to each and separately for railway undertakings and for infrastructure managers to be able to explain this to the political levels. And hopefully in 4 years we will have substantial new funding as we used to have also sometimes in the past. So far on this. First effect. When we discussed the updated strategy with the stakeholders, mainly with the railways, but also with the industries, there were debates, of course, because of this change that in principle it has to be ERTMS now, whenever we do something on an infrastructure. It was important to seek understandings and to win over people. So it had a positive impact on all levels, also on management levels. That was important to get everyone to understand each other and to get all stakeholders to engage themselves. Not all stakeholders were engaging themselves in ERTMS to date. I will come to that aspect as well. And there is a willingness to create those deployment plans and to have a foresighted approach and to have some perspective which is to a certain level dependable, especially for railway undertakings. And it also points down, that has been discussed already repeatedly yesterday and this morning, harmonization on many areas and on many levels. There is a lot of room for improvement on that respect. So despite all skepticisms that has also been expressed so far in this conference, we are confident that we, by addressing these measures which we have defined in this catalogue, which makes the major part of the strategy actually, not just the objective, is that we will find a way to demonstrate how we can modernize, that we can get to a digital railway. And of course, reasonable cost, we have to see, I would name it, at the best possible balance. Now, being pretty much in the midst of the European railway system, we allow ourselves to express some hopes and wishes towards the European railway sector. The first thing is to involve railway undertakings consequently, but also to get them engaged. They have to get active if they haven't done so yet. They are exposed to the open market, receive little funding. They are not unique. Every railway undertaking is different. They have their different business models. Some go for the great big market, others try to use a niche. So the key needs of them are options for their business decisions and not constraints, endless amount of constraints. And they need efficiency in all and in everything, and agility in everything that they will be doing with regard to ERTMS. Can be on maintenance tasks, can be renewals, etc. Okay. The second is improve ERTMS towards a harmonization, mentioned a lot, and improvements, just to make it fit for the purpose. So we're having a sort of management plan with these measures. We're directing the railways to work on them. We are also working on some of them ourselves. We're making getting our hands dirty, so to say, and we're also monitoring the progress. And we hope that we can speed up the production line significantly in the following years and few decades to come. Thank you very much, and here again the link.
Thank you. So if I look at it, then the strategy does not dramatically change. Eh? You are still planning to go to the level 2 installations over there. Maybe it's going to be a little bit different in the time, but it's still the same strategy as you had. That is also something which came also earlier in the session of Josef Doppelbauer, that if you think about it, all the plans which we developed already many years ago, and we actually keep on developing. Of course, there are some probably adjustments, but you have to be very carefully listening to understand these challenges, to these changes in the strategy.
That's right, yes.
Okay.
We didn't do a U-turn, but we gave it a twist, surely.
Okay, maybe we can go back on that also later when we have the question and answer sessions, and I will ask you also the question. You did address it shortly, but they call this the ERTMS conference, but I think this time it is more an FRMCS conference, because everybody has the headache of the FRMCS, and I didn't really hear in your presentation that you feared for that and how you're going to address that. So maybe that is something where you can prepare already in the coming, 40 minutes for this question. Have a seat over there. Thank you. Okay, we go to the second presentation, and this is, I think, I'm very proud that we have a presentation now from an Eastern European country, and the country which also has the policy, or they have made a strategic decision. They want to roll out ERTMS all over the country, and that is the Czech Republic. So, and I'm also very proud, I'm not going to mention, as I said, all the members of the user, but I'm very proud that also Sprava Celestic nowadays is a member of the ERTMS users group. And Radek Czech is one of my 13 bosses, by the way, and Radek and Jindrich, they are going to tell where are we then with the strategy following the decision to deploy ERTMS in the Czech Republic. The floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everybody. Why are we pushing ETCS forward in the Czech Republic? It's actually not only because we want to fulfill all the European deadlines coming from the regulations on TEN-T and other deployment plans, but we want to solve also several national issues which are still outstanding in the Czech railway sector. The first and most important is the improving of safety, because our Class B system doesn't fulfill all necessary functions. It cannot correctly stop the train running against the red signal and so on. And therefore, ETCS for us is, first of all, the opportunity to improve the safety of the railway operations. And therefore, we have also decided to introduce ETCS as the only control command and signaling system in the Czech Republic. And we are taking concrete steps towards it, which you can also then hear during this presentation. We have approved a strategy that by 2030 we will have the ETCS only operations on the whole TEN-T network, and by 2040 on the whole rest of the network. The other issue we want to tackle is also the increasing of the competition in the supplier sector, because there we really see the potential for decreasing the prices. We really see the potential for increasing the capacities of suppliers, and also to have the standardized interface, and therefore also U-Links is very important for us. Now I give the floor to Radek, and we'll come back then later for the vehicle part.
Thank you, and good afternoon, all of you. Maybe some words. Sprava Železnic is Czech infrastructure manager. We are responsible about maintenance, operation, and modernization of Czech railway network, including railway stations. Concerning ETCS, we have plans for all of our network. We plan high-speed project. It will be logically about ETCS level 2. Existing lines, TEN-T lines, it's about ETCS level 2 also. But we have high density of network, we have a lot of regional lines, secondary lines, and we need also solution for them, because these lines are relatively danger concerning possibility of crash, and we have nothing there. It's a reason that Správa železnic has established also proposal concerning these lines. It's about anything as a level 1, limited supervision, and really simply anything as a ETCS stop, and we are happy that this system has been approved a couple of days ago by agency in trackside approval process.
You have to find the right button.
Okay, perfect, thank you. It's about our network. You can see that we have a lot of lines, and especially on 10T lines, we have now on core network, we have ETCS mostly in operation. We have more than 1,000 kilometers line with ETCS level 2. We have listened from Matthias that it's about 9,000 kilometers across Europe. I have been surprised that it is not too many, but 1,000 is in the Czech Republic, and it's a good number from our point of view. Concerning our plans, you can see that we plan to cover all of our network up to 2040. Yeah, it's a little bit challenging, yeah, but it can be realistic, but it's depending also on some factors that we will mention in the future. We have also significant increase. You can see picture concerning increase of number of kilometers, and also picture of increase of vehicles in the Czech Republic. It's about more than 1,000 vehicles equipped with ETCS in the Czech Republic. What about situation this year? We have main corridor line between Praha and east to Břeclav, to Vienna, to Bratislava, under operation with some exception from engineering or construction works. We have also covered with ETCS line between Poland and Austria. We are transit country, and it's one of reason that ETCS, it's a really big advantage concerning future competitiveness of the Czech railway infrastructure. And we have also in operation line to České Budějovice and to west to Pilsen and to Bavaria, partly. Concerning main issues and main reason, especially concerning regional lines, in the Czech Republic we have a lot of single track lines with speed less than maybe 60 kilometers of hour, and also we have a lot of lines with single track, no main lines but no 10T lines. And avoid future crash and also problems with pass red signal, it's about some reason they establish this strategy concerning possibility to cover this type of line. ETCS level limited supervision, it's with speed control. ETCS stop is without speed control. It's only about that it's not possible for train to leave station. It's about red signal. We will be happy if possible in the future establish European solution. We are in favor, but we need solution now, not in 10 years. And concerning vehicles, please come back.
Yeah, so I've already said that we want to introduce ETCS only operations on our network. We already have one line in this mode. It's a regional line, 22 kilometers long, which is a sort of testing line, which is in this mode from the 1st January of 2023. And from the 1st January of 2025, we want to introduce the ETCS only operations on a quite big portion of our 10T main lines. And therefore, it is also necessary to have equipped the vehicles. And the equipment of the vehicles in the Czech Republic, it's quite a big challenge, because we have more than 100 railway undertakings, and we have also a big variety of the fleet of locomotives, electric, diesel, old, new, and so on. And therefore, we wanted to, of course, to help the railway undertakings with co-financing of the retrofitting of the fleet, because otherwise it would not be capable. Therefore, we have introduced many of the co-financing schemes using European and also national funding. We co-finance both retrofits, then also upgrades and also fitment in the new vehicles. We also distinguish the co-financing, what concerns the height of co-financing in case of prototypes, and then in case of series. And as I've already said, we combine European and national funding. The European mainly CEF, and then also cohesion fund, and from the national funding, it's the money from the state fund of the transport infrastructure. What is important to say that by this time we have already equipped more than 750 vehicles in the Czech Republic. By the end of the year, it will be 1,000 vehicles, and by the year 2030, it will be almost 2,000 vehicles. And the total investment, which was already, let's say, spent or contracted by the railway undertakings, exceeds 700 million euros. And it's really a big portion of money, especially for the small country like the Czech Republic is. The half of it was mainly paid by the European all public funds, and that is also the reason, and you could also hear it from our colleague from the Rail Freight Association during the morning session, that that's the reason why really we need the stability of the specifications, and why we really need to use the onboard units in which we have invested so much money together with our railway undertakings. Here you can see then also the a share of different types of locomotives. What concerns the financing, the largest portion was financed by CEF, then by cohesion fund, and then by national fund. Of course, the largest portion of the vehicles was the retrofitting. It's about 3/3, but there is also a quite big portion of new locomotives, and we can also see in the Czech railway system that the ETCS is also an incentive for the modernization of the fleet, because many railway undertakings have decided, instead of equipping old locomotives, to buy new ones instead. And the overall numbers of the vehicles which are needed for the ETCS only operations is, as I've already said, from the 1st January 2025, it is more than 1,000 vehicles, and the target number of equipped vehicles in the Czech railway system is around 2,000, which will be reached by 2030. And for the conclusions, now I give the floor back to Radek.
Thanks. It was possible to see in the picture that we have also one ETCS only line in operation, and it's really a big lecture for us because we use maybe some benefits, but also some maybe challenges or disbenefits of ETCS operation. But especially concerning high number of vehicles and along of lines with ETCS, it's necessary to say that it's about some challenges and also some issues. It's necessary to communicate with European Commission and agency as a responsible authorities. The first is that we need really stability. It's not possible for us as well as for operators to make upgrade of vehicles every 2-3 years, because it is not as easy as mobile phone. Mobile phone upgrades in nighttime without problems, but in this case you need authorization, approval process, and it's a little bit expensive. Concerning interoperability, interoperability is, from my point of view, one of the most important benefit of ETCS. But what about reality? It's about many versions across Europe. It's not possible for some vehicles, older vehicles with ETCS, now baseline 2, to operate across Europe. And it's in 10 years, this system has been changed completely. It's also anything as an issue that is necessary to solve for future. It's necessary to protect investments generally. From one point of view, and for the support Alberto, it's necessary to have strong project management on EU level. It's necessary to manage as a project. Concerning emergency situation, we absent anything as a manual what is necessary to do in the case of problems. It's now about a lot of crises, Russia crisis, and we need also some disasters concerning problems with weather, and we need also some manuals how operate railway in these special cases. It has been not solved by our opinion, and it's necessary to have this methodology. we need also some solution, really cheap and easy solution, but interoperable solution for non-TEN-T lines. It's, I hope, a big challenge for European Rail Common Joint Undertaking. And also, we need anything as a simplify of approval process, because it's need now many time and it's really expensive. Yeah, it's necessary to be a little bit more effective. Right? Sorry, because it was this slide. And but we have also some maybe solution for this necessary as a proposal to solve. Stability of financing is, from our point of view, basic issue. Also for future, it's necessary to combine different ways. Also, we hope that the next Commission will establish anything as a project manager. It can be European coordinator, but with clear mandate and also with clear power concerning possibility to coordinate. Also, stability of specification, but all of process. It's not possible that some issues has been done by Commission, some by agency, and some by maybe industry, and nobody coordinates. I have mentioned this methodology and also these issues concerning light rail, but it's a really important topic maybe for Central European countries, because without it will be about different solution, and it will be with impact to development of this system, variability of this system, and also with impact to maybe no cost effectivity of this system. And maybe last one is necessary also to establish good capacity of industry and also good capacity of approval authorities, authorization, because authorization process is now, from our point of view, one of maybe most problematic issue, and also it's necessary to coordinate approach across all of authorities across Europe. Now it's about different decisions across Europe, and for international operation, it's really difficult, and I see as a big disbenefit of this system. That's all, and also we are happy to answer your questions in the future, and also I would like repeat that we are also a proud member of the ERTMS users group. We are very happy because it's possible to share all of experience with big family of infrastructure managers that use ETCS, and we are happy that we are part of this family. Thank you, Michel, and yeah.
Thank you, Jacob and Hendrik. Very well managed in time. My compliments. It's a difficult topic because you are the first, from my perspective, the first country from Eastern Europe where you want to deploy nationwide ERTMS. So maybe we can come back in the question and answer sessions. But you were not that positive, by the way, Radek, in the last remark where you said it was very complicated. But maybe you can come back a little bit on, do you also feel that you have help from the fact that the ERTMS specifications are there? Does it benefit you? Because what would have been the alternative for you? You have a kind of a system which is also quite aging, and you had to renew it. So maybe you can give your reflection on it, whether there would be, from your perspective as an Eastern European country, also other alternatives to ERTMS. But that's for the question and answer session. So you can think about it for a second. We will now go to one of the, or maybe it is no, it's not the first, but it is one of the first implementers of ERTMS, and it is at least the country where we had the first commercial application of ERTMS, which was the Roma-Napoli line. So we go to Italy. I saw, Fabio, that you have returned, and I'm very happy that I can invite you and your colleague from Trenitalia, Marco Capusciuti, apologies for my pronunciation, to tell us something about where are you now with your ambitious program to roll out ERTMS, what was it, by 2032 in Italy, removing completely Class Bs, etc. So we are really eagerly looking forward. How far are you? And also tell us about maybe your, let me say, disappointments or whatever. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good evening. Our presentation is about, this is the portfolio of our application. We have, since 2005, introduce ERTMS in high-speed lines and also in conventional lines for application for high density, for trans-European network, for regional lines, and also for the new infrastructure. So in 2025, we are happy to here about 20 years with ERTMS standalone in the first high-speed line in Roman-Naples. This is the project ongoing. The red one is the lines in operation, and the green lines in operation, and the red one is the lines in construction. So as you can see, Italy is a kind of a tree where we want to introduce ERTMS not only in the main lines, but also in all the tree. In fact, the ERTMS is a system, as a railway is a system, so we afford the investment not only for the core or the route, but also for the leaves. This is important because the strategy of onboard and trackside pass through the fleet. And when you have a fleet simple, you can decommissioning the Class B. Otherwise, it's difficult to do. That's the reason why, starting the strategy for high speed, we implement directly ERTMS level 2 in the greenfield world, like new lines. Then we start the breakthrough program for the corridors, starting with an overlapping in the Class B, and we are doing that for 1,200 kilometers, but it's very difficult in efficiency. The third strategy is to afford a completely different strategy, dual on board and not dual on track. This means that we start for that for simple fleet, so means regional lines like in Ireland, like in Sardinia, in Sicily, and other simple track. And so we invest the recovery plan amount, 3 billion, for 4,000 kilometers with this strategy. So we don't stop the high speed, we don't stop the breakthrough program, but we start with this third strategy that help the railway undertaking to take time to upgrade the fleet. We want to respect the figure of the European regulation to arrive at 2030 with core network and accelerate with comprehensive and off-10 network. So the 2022 we assigned two big tender, European tender, with differentiate the work between a different region of Italy and differentiate also the heaviness for the supplier. These investments are multi-technological investment. That is important things. That means that the supplier is responsible for all the CCS. So the safety case finally is one for ERTMS, interlocking, GSMR, and traffic management for each line. This is very helpful when you have to go to authorize with the National Safety Agency the line. For on board, the strategy is to use member states' money for the type. We are coming back from the last strategy was to implement the Class B in all the train. This train was with a prefitted ERTMS. Our Class B SCMT is very similar to ERTMS. So now the update of 100 type managed by RFI is the step 2 of the story. And due to a special law that is passing through European Commission, we want to help the railway undertaking to use money for fleet conformity to the type. So we realize in this last year a complete new strategy. one of the big issue is to maintain deployment and innovation, and for that we ask several times to use a radio backward compatibility for the version, and also to find a solution for the future. In fact, the future could be accelerate if the member states continues to give us 1 million for kilometer. Otherwise, the acceleration became normal or decelerate. So it's clear that at the moment we have all the tools to continue to implement in accelerated way the ERTMS due to the fact that the fleet is much more quicker than trackside. The fleet, when it started with the type, it's a problem of money, but it's an industrial issue simpler than trackside. And the key point is how to sustain the freight company, because passenger company as region or member states or business coming from the business money, the freight is the problem. I leave the floor to my colleague Marco, that is the owner of the main fleet in Italy.
Thank you, Fabio. First of all, some words about Trenitalia. Trenitalia is the railway undertaking that operates in Italy. Trenitalia belongs to Ferrovie dello Stato Group and manages about 700 trains per day. So Trenitalia has developed a strong plan for the installation of ETCS on the fleet. The plan has made in coherence with the plan of RFI and regards all the fleet, high-speed trains, intercity trains, and regional trains. How is the situation of the signaling system on board in Italy and in Trenitalia in special way? All the fleet, all high-speed fleet of Trenitalia, but also of the other operator in Italy, Italo, is already equipped with ETCS, because in Italy the use of ETCS has started in 2005 for high-speed line, and so all the rolling stock for high-speed is already equipped. The situation is different for regional trains and intercity trains, and so the plan is based on the fitment of rolling stock, and in particular all the new rolling stock is already equipped with ETCS, and with the retrofitting. The retrofitting that deal with all the fleet, regional and intercity. With this plan, Trenitalia reached another goal, and so the goal to remove from the service old rolling stock, where is not convenient to upgrade or retrofit ERTMS, and so the old fleet will not be equipped with ETCS, like the colleague of Czech Republic has said. Something more about the plan. The upgrading. All high-speed trains are already equipped with ETCS, but there's a problem of version, because the majority of the trains are equipped with ETCS baseline 2, and so is in course the upgrade to baseline 3. And then there's another opportunity, in particular for regional trains, in particular for the nodes, to install the ETCS high density in order to increase the capacity of the infrastructure. Installing ETCS high density on board means both a software modification and also an hardware modification for assure the integrity of the train. And so in the plan for retrofitting and upgrading, there's also the possibility of installing ETCS high density. Something more about how the plan is developed. In Italy has been made an important choice that depends from the Ministry of Transport. And so the Ministry of Transport has given the duty to RFI, the Italian infrastructure manager, to have in charge the homologation of the specific application, the homologation of the general application, and so the railway undertaking have the task to put at disposition of RFI the rolling stock for the test for specific application and general application. And all the costs for the homologation of specific and general application are of RFI. What must do the railway undertaking? Railway undertaking must realize the application for the series, for all the vehicles that are in the fleet. And in a word, railway undertaking thinks to series applications, and RFI thinks to general and specific applications. This chart is very complicated because in this chart we have put all the type of rolling stock of Trenitalia, high speed, regional, intercity, all the type, the number of the fleet, the cost for the retrofit, and this is the synthesis of the plan of installation, a plan of installation that is coherent with the plan of the infrastructure manager and has the goal to complete all the installation for the 2030. Something more about ETCS on board, some issues linked to the plan. Some of these issues are already mentioned, but it's important to reinforce the concept. First of all, the plan is made removing the vehicles from the service, and so it's very important to reduce the time for removing from the service. And this is a very important issue. And so, for reduce the time, some proposals, some ideas. We think that it's important to discuss about the necessity of a new series authorization for each vehicle. It's important the authorization of the type, but we think that it's important to avoid or simplify the new series authorization in order to avoid that the train has the ERTMS installed and must remain not in service. The second point, the stability of configuration and of the requirements. Another point, the link between ETCS and FRMCS. The majority of the vehicles in Trenitalia is equipped with ERTMS baseline 3. And so for us it's very important the compatibility of FRMCS with baseline 3 in order to avoid a new retrofit for baseline 4. And the last point, the last number of type tests means a large number of homologation processes, and so it's important to standardize, to use tests made on other vehicles in order to reduce this time and to reduce also costs. Thank you.
Thank you, Marco. Thank you. Yeah, I'm run the risk that I ask too many questions to the Czech colleagues, but I have one question. That is that you've got a lot of regional lines, and Czech Republic also has a lot of regional lines, but the solution from the Czech is completely different from the solution from Italy. So I'm a bit, I should not ask the question to you, because for you it's evident, huh? You don't have a radio system installed, you need a very short-term solution, so that is why you have created this concept of ETCS stop. But why do you think it can also be done in a different way? That would be an interesting question, I think, maybe to answer, if we still have some time left. But before answering that question, we first go to another important presentation, because it is only 1.5 years' time that it is the end of 2025. And Infrabel has this wonderful challenge that they have to equip the network with ERTMS before the end of 2025. So Jochen, we are all very much looking forward to hear from you that you're going to succeed in that. The floor is yours.
Frankly speaking, Michel, you're making me a little nervous. High expectations.
Of course, as usual.
So, perhaps I have an unusual profile here because I'm a civil engineer. I'm working with concrete, and concrete is a little simpler than all kinds of different signaling systems. But nevertheless, I guess we have a nice case of a practical rollout of ETCS in a brownfield in our country, about 6,000 kilometers. And perhaps I start with the why. What motivates my team to go the extra mile? And the why is, I guess, rail safety, along with other safeties of airplanes and so on. It evolves through accidents that happen on the network. Let me tell you a little bit more of the Belgian case. What the Belgian case is, in the 80s and in the 90s, rail accidents were not related strictly to signaling. They were related to level crossings, to particular accidents. And luckily, in the 80s and the 90s, we didn't have some serious accidents on our network. And then, what happens? Then we had this one, big row. And I guess every engineer in the company knows at the moment where he was when this thing happens. Big row. On that time, we had in Belgium the classic Memor crocodile system. We didn't have the control when some of the drivers hit a red light. When we had the signal past that danger, we only had confidence in the train driver. He was the only responsible. And we didn't have a national system that controls speeds on switches and so on big crossings. So Houston, we have a problem. What was changed in those 2 decades? We didn't have a big railway accident. That was public opinion. When in the 80s or in the 70s we had an accident, it was the train driver was to blame. He didn't follow the rules, the regulations. He was the only one to blame. Public opinion changed. How is it possible in a modern system that only the train driver is responsible for burning a red light? So how is it possible that an engineering company with so much engineers, clever heads, hadn't had a solution to that problem? So ETCS, we already talked about ETCS at that time, I guess, but ETCS, it was an idea. It wasn't practically applicable on our network. So we worked on a national system, a quick, fast, quick and dirty national system that prevents the train driver from burning a red light. So among all our other projects, we were developing LGV lines, TGV lines, we were developing new lines, we were digitalizing, we were concentrating signal boxes, and we had a project next to all the other projects. And the project was called TBLN Plus, difficult name, and it prevents, in a lot of cases, that when a driver didn't react on a red light, the train stops, hopefully stops when the point of danger is reached. So in 2006, we had our proper system, and we began our rollout on the fleet and on tracks, like we did most of the projects. And then, colleagues, then happened this one, Beuzingen. It was our most severe accident in 5 decades. 19 persons were killed that rush hour in the morning near Brussels. And unluckily, TBLN Plus, our national system, was on the ground, but the train was not equipped with that system. So, in fact, the same thing happened as Pre-Crow 1 decade earlier. What happened, colleagues, was public outrage. The public was confident in us. We searched a solution, and now we have an even bigger accident 10 years later with a very bad result. And how is it possible? Public outrage. So the beginning of ETCS, the beginning of that probing that wakes me at night, that makes me nervous for next year, that's the beginning of that. So we had our national system to prevent burning red lights, but we still don't have a system that controls speed. Is it really necessary to have that system? Well, in Belgium, those years, then happened this one. It was a chemical train. I hope nobody is scared to take the train in Belgium at this time. It was a chemical train. Not that issue, not that many wounded people and so on, but we had to evacuate a whole town because that chemical train was burning for about a week. And we had to work 2 entire months, to clean up the mess and to get tracks right in service. So that was another push to say, let's leave all those Class B systems behind and go ahead with our ETCS project. And when you see, I only see those pictures and then I skip it right away. A year ago in Greece, I guess everyone in this room remembers what has happened in the streets of Athens. Public outrage. People don't accept that all the clever engineers that are here together can't find a solution to that. Michel, what was our solution? We need to have a master plan ETCS SAP, as soon as possible. Now in Belgium, Michel, we are known for our chocolate, and we are also known for our French fries, but we're also known for making a good compromise. And what was a good compromise? It's not the best thing we will realize in 30 years from now on with the newest technology, with the newest findings, with the best ingenuity. No. Politics give us a law. We have 1 decade, and it's 14 December 2025, 14 December, marked on my calendar, and you must have to get the things done before that date. So we were in search with our clever minds, cut the crap, search a pragmatical solution, a pragmatical compromise to get the things done. And then, well, it's some countries laugh about the name. We made up a kind of a Belgian patchwork. And what is the patchwork? It was 4 pillars. One pillar was, okay, a Class B system. We only need a couple of years to get that thing done. It's already that thing. We don't wait for ETCS on 2025 to get a final solution. Thus, so we made a firm project management plan for the Class B system, and the Class B system is done in 2015, end of the job. To have a system that controls speed in Belgium, we were in search for ETCS. Now, in those days, it was 1 year after the big incident, we had some experience of ETCS1. We were deploying it on the North Sea Med corridor between Antwerp Harbor and Luxembourg. So we were deploying it. We had experience about it. And we had also the problem with we talked a lot about FRMCS and ESMR systems, but we need these systems to deploy ETCS2. And I guess from now on, we will put the train station in Ghent in service next year. So it's about the biggest station we can do in Belgium. It's already a big station, but it's not Brussels yet. It's the biggest station we can do with the classical ESMR technology because we don't have enough capacity. We need the FRMCS solution to get bigger stations with our technology. So ETCS2, let's buy a turnkey solution to our network, a turnkey solution. That combines an interlocking system and an ETCS2 system. We can program the balises, we can program the beacons. That must be quicker than doing all the beacons with technology, with a computer on the terrain. So let's do ETCS2, but we still need to have a contract and so on. And meanwhile, we do ETCS1 on the knot of Brussels and with our experience. And that was the compromise, to have all the country covered by 2025. We had a system that's called limited supervision. It don't have a DMI, but it does practically the same thing behind the scenes that you have on a full supervision system. So let's roll out a part of the country, a quarter of the country, for all the rural lines, let's do the minor lines with the limited supervision system. So we did this patchwork of systems. We made a master plan, and we started the job a year after the incident in 2011. It's interesting to say another thing, that we made the choice with our colleagues of the NMBS, with the fleet, to do the boat rollouts in the meantime. Classical, you do the on-track version, and then you do the whole fleet, or all the way around. So we have a mixed pattern of trains that are equipped and not equipped, and an infrastructure that is equipped and not equipped. We have the experience that when you do things that way, you are learning, you are experiencing the good things and the bad things about the system, and you can improve the system while doing so. So our colleagues in the ETCS, for ETCS on NMBS, have also a huge stress to make their date on the 14th December of 2025. You didn't invite my colleague, Michel, but he can also say the same story, but the kind of the fleet. And another thing that is interesting on the Belgian patchwork, so we do the things at the same time, is Mott MacDonald asked us a couple of years ago. They made, the master plan was then 7 or 8 years old. They made a reanalysis if we can do better. And I must say, the colleagues that developed the master plan a couple of years earlier, I was not one of those colleagues, for be sure, did a good job, because the conclusion from Mott MacDonald was, when you really want to realize in the field ETCS by 25, that still is a good plan to do so. So we drank a beer yesterday with the whole team. And what was the approach that made it work? It's think about a compromise, be realistic in your ambitions, but be ambitious, because 25 is still a hot date to meet with the team. I guess Josef Doppelbauer say, make it happen. I say always to the team, just do it. Because by doing it and not doing the philosophy of doing it perhaps in the future, you're learning about the system. And that is one advice everybody has to take, be pragmatic about it. Just do it and be pragmatic with the knowledge of our teams. So, the Belgian patchwork. Where we are today, you have the different colors with the different types of ETCS. And I guess nowadays we have 4,000 kilometers in ETCS and a brownfield, rural lines, 3 technologies, main lines, high-speed lines, a mix of them both. We had our super node and our network, Brussels, fully equipped with ETCS. And 4,000 kilometers, I put some stress on the team. That's 1,000 kilometers this year. And there's another 1,000 kilometers next year before 14 December 2025 to reach the target. Important, we will talk about it later. We have, interlocking as the basis of this project. And we do some 31 interlocking projects this year. We already made 6 of them. And all the interlocking part must be finished this year to achieve ETCS in 2025. So it's an interesting project. You see the kilometers, you see the percentage, but we have a plan for each project and so on. Our experience is you do need a plan. That's the top of the iceberg. What you're realizing, that's the thing people see, the kilometers. But all those things like rules and legislation, the certification circles, a lot of colleagues talked about the difficult certification, V-cycle, CNLX systems, the maintenance, the working windows. It has a large impact on your transport plan, on your customers, when you put a lot of those stations out of service to place a new interlocking, to place new systems. Rolling stocks, your own yellow fleet, and the security of your own workers, because ETCS is another system. So you need also think about your own co-workers who work at tracks. He has to be even more secured than early days on. And perhaps we searched of the face of Josef to put there, but we didn't find it. I will end perhaps because, as you already expected, I can talk for a whole day about this project, because I was a former project manager, and I can reassure everybody, because that's the most passionate, difficult, but rewarding project I ever did in my life, together with my team. So perhaps ending with the 6 commandments of ETCS. I challenged my team, and I guess give me some commandments I can give to all the people, that they do the same thing, or just don't do the same mistakes we did, so they get the emphasis on the right things. For us, the basic is for ETCS, for have a strong plan, for have a stable plan, is the interlocking system. You need to have a strong vision on what you do for interlocking. In Belgium, we already were changing our interlocking and digital interlocking because of the concentration of the signal boxes in Belgium. We already were a step ahead, but have a strict plan to change your interlockings, to have the faces of the interlockings right with the transport plan, with the clients. It's the basis of the plan. Like I was saying, now all interlockings must be done this year. All renewals must be done. Otherwise, we don't meet that date on 25. The project traps, are the same traps, I guess, you meet in the other countries. Underestimates, but there are more overestimates on a budget. But they are very specific. When you're enrolling ETCS on a straight line or on a separate network, it's, you can buy a whole system. It's not that difficult. But with us in a brownfield, where you think you know all the technologies in a whole country, but when you go to a certain region, you see some of the technologies are not quite the same or something else. So you put it in service and it doesn't work, or if you are testing it, it doesn't work. What happens? Yeah, in that region, they interpreted the rules a little bit different. So you have to do it in a brownfield. Also, the project traps, we were thinking, let's do the turnkey solution.
You have to speed up a little bit.
Sorry. We do the turnkey solution, but at a brownfield it doesn't work. The rollout came in a full acceleration. At the moment, we work strongly together with our suppliers. We had joint teams with our suppliers, because when you have one team against the other, it doesn't work. Human resources and some peak periods, we had 600 people working on the project. Internally, also with the supplier. We need a lot of technical personnel to get the things done. ETCS transition, that wasn't known at the first version of the plan. When you have some ETCS aisles in your network, you have to think of both things. Making those aisles, those different islands, talk to each other, technically, it's not that simple. Even today, when you see unlimited supervision, when you were closing the gap between those big projects, you see that there is not much kilometers are realized in limited supervision, but it all goes about talking. Limited supervision has to adapt on ETCS1 the one side and ETCS2 the other side. Also the human factor. When you're a train driver and you're passing from a full supervision in a limited supervision or a zone where you still have the Class B systems, you need to think, you align your project, you're putting into service, you need that align, taking account of the human factor. Suppliers, you need to work together with suppliers. Off-the-shelf solutions, the combining of all those different assets, of all those different on-the-shelf solutions that work, and do it in your own signaling system. Generally, you need experts from your own side, you need the expert for the suppliers, that both systems can talk to each other. ETCS modification, when you do the project, you also have to take in account this project and all your other projects. We're changing, we're doing some major works at the stations of Mechelen, at the stations of Brussels and in Ghent. So you have to synchronize ETCS and all the other projects. That was the first thing to do, synchronize all these projects, that and a single date, you put into service ETCS, and you put into service a certain phase of the project. You need to take in account a freeze. So the studies you did are still the studies you put in service. And afterwards, you have to manage the change. When you're changing the network afterwards, it's not a free lunch. You have to always take in account the changes, so the system follows everything what happens and becomes a driver on everything that changes on the network. So I guess I do my roundup here, Michel. Otherwise, I have the risk I was still talking about an hour. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Jochen. But even though this is a high challenge for you, you seem quite relaxed. I'm quite confident that you're going to make this, especially because you already showed that you could deliver the TBL Plus installation in time in 2015. So, and if you look at the progress you make every time, I'm very confident of it. But maybe in 2 years' time, you can evaluate it once more and tell us about this success story and what were the real reasons for the success. Okay, We now go to the leasing company. Rainer, you're there. Beacon Rail Capital Europe. I studied on it. But representing AERRL.
Yes.
Also, eh?
Yes, also.
So, and I know your presentation, and I think it's a very interesting presentation because you're going to combine the ERTMS conference of 4 years ago, I think, with this one. Eh?
That's right. Thanks, Michel.
Go ahead.
And good afternoon, everybody. And it's exactly like Michel said. For me, this is some kind of opportunity to give you an upgrade of what I said in 2019 here on the ERTMS conference, because in 2019 I stood already exactly here and gave some kind of experience report regarding the challenges with deployment of ERTMS on the onboard side, so meaning on the rolling stock side. And this from an investor's perspective, because leasing business is driven as an investment business, and why the leasing business is so good to explain the challenges for the deployment of ERTMS on the rolling stock side. Well, it's quite simple, because as a leasing company by nature, you normally have the most complex assets in your portfolio, because having the most complex assets in your portfolio gives you the opportunity to provide flexibility to your customers. You can use your assets over the life cycle also in a very flexible way. So many reasons that normally the leasing companies are the front runners for that kind of multi-system and cross-border operations, especially in the locomotive sector. So on the slides you see Beacon Rail, but today I represent the AERRL, which says it's the Association of the European Railway Rolling Stock Lessors. So, and let's start with the agenda. So as said, I was here already 5 years ago in 2019, and I gave a certain report about the experiences so far. And today, now 5 years later, I have the opportunity to give you an update and to compare a little bit. Well, in 5 years ago, we had some plan, we had a status, and we had even some visions. And now 5 years later, we can see whether these expectations have all fulfilled. The plan was realized. What is the status as of today? And what do we learn especially out of that? And on top of that, we will come in the second part a little bit on the specific challenges when it goes to that kind of different kinds of ERTMS deployments. But we will look also a little bit into the environment. Where is this all embedded regarding the overall railway development? Because this environment always gives triggers to additional investments into your assets. And I would like to show you especially for complex cross-border locomotives, where the challenges are, why the challenges are there, and how potentially they could be solved. And then, as the last point, I also would like to ask the very general question, because we as leasing company, we are embedded in the railway sector as such. So I also would like to raise the question, do we think that the railway sector is prepared for what is going on in the future when it comes to ERTMS upgrades, especially to baseline 3. So first of all, 5 years ago, I gave you a short report and I put it into a nutshell. What was the status there? I reported about the F4 locomotive. The F4 locomotive was the front runner for cross-border operations, especially in the cargo operations, the first real multi-system cross-border locomotives. And at that time, in 2019, we were already able to state that at that time we had already the situation that we had to invest 3 times into ETCS. First installation and then 2 further upgrades just to give it onto the level on 230D. The second part of the portfolio I was reporting about 5 years ago was the U2 locomotives, also a non-TSI locomotive, same as the F4. And for the U2, we had at that time already to invest 2 times into ETCS. And then we said, well, let's look at the remaining part of the portfolio at that time, and that was the Vectron, especially multi-system version. And there we said, well, It has been already delivered with 230D, so it should be a no-brainer to bring this then in a later stage onto baseline 3. So the passage is clear, everything is fine, let's go into the future. That was the expectation 5 years ago. And now the question is, have all these expectations been fulfilled? And the point is, yeah, what was the clear vision 5 years ago how the future will look like? And if you look at the F4 locomotive, a non-TSI locomotive, but as said, it was the front runner of cross-border operations, so designed for cross-border operations, but not under the umbrella of the TSI. So what does this mean? We had to ask ourselves how to bring this as a non-TSI locomotive into the world of baseline 3. And at that time, there was the opportunity to get a prototype subsidized. And we said, well, that's a brilliant idea. Let's have a prototype. And by that, we clarify everything that has to be clarified, also with the authorities and all the other stakeholders, how to bring a non-TSI locomotive into the world of baseline 3. Super idea, and let's start with the prototype. For the U2, it was even quite simpler because we had at that time just 30 locomotives U2. There is a big incumbent who calls this locomotive type more the Taurus machines. And we said at that time, also in discussion with the OEM, they said clearly it doesn't make sense to start a project for 30 locomotives that you have. Just wait for the decision of the big incumbent, and then let's join forces, and that will be the solution. Fine. And then the third point, the Vectron platform, where we said, well, it's a platform. It's designed already under the TSI. It's authorized and homologated under the TSI. So everything should be clear. Let's use all the opportunities that such a platform locomotive can give to switch it into baseline 3. Okay, 5 years later. So for the F4, the question was, or the question should be today, has all this been fulfilled that we thought 5 years ago? And we said, first of all, yes, we started the prototype project. It's still running. It will end at the end of this year. But what we can say is, even although we are almost on the finishing line of this prototype, we still not have become there to say what will be the final scope of technical necessities to be changed on this F4 locomotives, and what will be then also the final scope of investments of this locomotive. And this brings us to the situation that the OEM is even not able to hand over a non-binding offer for that, because there is still that unclarity that has to be clarified within the remaining time frame of this prototyping. So the prototype almost running for 5 years, and still you have that kind of uncertainties. In all honesty, that was not exactly what we expected 5 years ago. And in all honesty, it was written on the last slide already. We know already as of today that one result of this prototype will be that for this cross-border locomotive, most likely we will lose an area of use, and this will be the area of use in Italy. And Italy is a quite crucial area of use if we talk about corridor locomotives. So then the second, the U2s. Well, and I decided, why wasting time? Let's put it to the point, no progress. And we heard already this morning how long this kind of tender processes for the incumbents in that area can be, and this is exactly the point. We are still waiting for the decision of the big incumbent. We still have the situation that the OEM says we will never start a project for these 30 locomotives that you have. There is no business case behind. We don't have the resources as OEM. You don't have the money as investor, so forget about it. Okay, so parked, still no progress. And the Vectrons. Well, I would say it's a little bit like running a hurdle race, because yes, the Vectron is a platform, yes, we have the TSI, yes, we have a lot of standardization, but yes, we also have meanwhile ESCs. And what does this mean that you have ESCs? That means that even when ordering a new type of the Vectron, the supplier cannot even clearly specify which ESCs in the end will have to be tested, because the evaluation and the development of the ESCs is a little bit like a floating target. So also here you have investment uncertainties, what can happen in the future. And what was created on top of that is And this is, in general, this is not a beacon thing, but this is a typical example what happens to almost every leasing company. Because what happened in that case is that an existing agreement between member states, between Switzerland and Italy, about crossing the border at Domodossola was cancelled, it disappeared, and then it was switched into under the ESC regime. And that leads to the situation that you have at the border, one ESC, another ESC meeting at the border, very short track parts which are now under the ESC control. Now under ESC, everything has to be tested. These tests not finalized yet, so that means when you now buy a locomotive under ETCS baseline 3, which is capable to run Switzerland-Italy, you cannot run Switzerland-Italy because that problem has not been solved yet. So this is why I say it's a little bit like a hurdle race. Everything for sure will be solved, but you put always on top complexity. Complexity leads to investment uncertainty, and it really jeopardizes in the end business cases, because the question always is, shall I invest now or shall I invest later? So now, as I said, this all has to be seen as being embedded in an environment of the overall rail development. And if you look at the timeline, and I just put it in a very simplified picture, in reality it's even more complex. But if you look at the situation of these assets that I was just talking about, very briefly, we have various ETCS upgrade projects that simply have to be executed because we have to make, in reality, then the transition to baseline 3. Then we have an ETCS prototyping project, what I've been talking about. And then we had, in the past, first of all, we had the 100 Hertz upgrade necessity in Switzerland for the network access for Switzerland. Then we had the GSMR upgrade for the network access in Germany. And especially the second one started when there was already the ETCS prototype for baseline 3 for F4 running. Then we had the introduction of the ESCs, as already said. Then we have the necessity to have upgrades regarding the energy metering system, because this is also a requirement that pops up from time to time. Then for sure we will have FRMCS, that was also reported this morning already. And then we have things like the digital automatic coupler, which is under discussion. So we know already that also in the future things will come on top. And you see, when this comes all in parallel, you get in some trouble when you have especially the complex variants of locomotives, because what happened in reality with the F4 was simply we had those three streamlines in parallel. We had the 100 Hertz upgrade for Switzerland, GSMR upgrade for German network access, and the prototype. And the point is, even the timelines of these three projects were deviating from each other. And the very unpleasant thing was, while we already started the prototype of F4, we had to fulfill parts of the GSMR upgrade, but GSMR has unfortunately a lot to do with ETCS. So what the OEM had to do to carve out the GSMR part out of the prototype F4, put it into a separate engineering part in order to reintroduce it in the engineering part then in a later stage. So that means the whole prototype project was, to put it into polite words, disturbed. But there was another quite funny effect, and I can tell you an anecdote, because at that time we received even a call from someone from the era and saying, what is going on with your F4 fleet? I receive in parallel every week different applications, different documents, and the questions in the end of the phone call was, why can't you bundle this? And if I would have been on the phone personally, I would have said, yes, we would love to bundle that. That's exactly the point. So, what comes on top? If we look at the question whether the whole sector is already prepared, what is going on? We see that the whole sector is under pressure because we create bottleneck by bottleneck. And this is even when we look at what is going on for the ERTMS baseline 3 upgrade sections, we see that, for example, we also have to qualify workshops. And for that, we need workshops which are already quite rare on the market, especially along the corridors. And they normally want to focus on their service and maintenance works and not being qualified for upgrade projects. and you also need the specialists being qualified and audited and all these things on top of that. And then we also see that there is currently a situation where it's almost impossible to bundle that kind of investments. So what we see is that there is a lack of industry standard platforms so that we can harmonize, roll things out. And the point is, since we also have that very formalized APM process in place, where you have to take locomotives out of operation, waiting for the APM, then putting it into service, for us as leasing companies, it's very simple. Every single day counts for us, and every single day out of operation counts for our customers. So, and what does this mean then in the end? If we continue with that kind of fragmentized approach to bring upgrades onto the locomotives and onto the assets, then we will take away traction from the market, and this is exactly not what the market needs. This is exactly not what the sector wants. So therefore, we have to find a solution that we can roll out such kind of things by using natural standstill times of the assets, and we have those natural standstill times by having major overhauls or everything like that. So let's find a way that we can combine the natural standstill times and that we have a more industry standard-like rollout of that kind of things. So,
I guess this is your last slide, huh?
Almost.
Almost.
Almost. So what will come on top then, and here I can make it really quick, Michel. There will be FRMCS, there will be then the digital automatic coupler, and there will be, and this is what experience shows, you can place a bet, there will be also additional national network access requirements that will come on top. And so therefore, the parallel things will be continued, and we are just seeking for solutions. And all that I've been said so far, and all that I will always say, is never a finger pointing to anybody. I just make a neutral report, what is reality and what brings challenges, especially when it goes into investment scenarios. So, and one of the main messages is we have made our experience as leasing company. We can offer to share our experience. We can offer to work with you all together on solutions. And we always said this also, talking to Michel and others from the European Commission. Let's introduce us and let's bring us into the discussion, because those experiences we can turn over to some kind of lesson learned structure. And then in the end, we have 3 messages from the ERL, which we have aligned as our position. And the first point is a commitment. Yes, we support the idea to have the one standardized European safety system which guarantees a smooth operation cross-border across Europe. But what we want to see is that we create industry standard platforms with a certain time of maturity period, so that we have time enough to roll that kind of first platform out, so that we see there is a level of ERTMS to be rolled out as one platform, then on top an FRMCS, and all the other things of innovations. We are not against innovations, it's exactly the other way around. But if we want to do things in a sustainable way, then in the end, it has to be made in that way that the sector can swallow that. And this is exactly the point. We have to define what is really necessary to guarantee cross-border operations, and all further innovations like ATO and everything that might come on top has to be not a mandatory investment, but an investment that can be selected then off the shelf as an off-the-shelf product. The second thing is exactly what I meant. It has to be made that investments are not mandatory anymore when it's not supporting the real cross-border operations. And the third point is that by that we think it's the best way to guarantee that kind of economic way to continue with that kind of cross-border operations, reliable, safe, and everything what the sector needs, but exactly what the sector needs and not what might come on top of that. So that's the end of my presentation, and I think, Michel, we have a lot to be discussed now. Thank you.
Thank you, Rainer. Please take that cup. This is the only one left. There you go. Okay. So you are an appreciated member of the EUG ERTMS RU railway platform, and you have always contributed also to those things. So we are already sharing these things. And yes, it's not so easy for me to say, well, we can just solve all these issues. But I appreciate in particular that you are very, let me say, willing to share your experience, and also you don't say that you have given up already on it. It's just that you are critical. And I think it just shows, we started, by the way, but it was not this session, with a success story in Spain. But you can see in this session that, if you come to the real implementations in the other countries, there are still a lot of hurdles to be overcome, to speak with the words of Rainer. And maybe that's also one of the reasons why in Switzerland you did change your strategy slightly, because just making a decision, we are going to roll out ERTMS all over the country, in the end, when you start working on it, it's not that simple. And I heard it actually from all the presenters over here, that you find out that your original ideas, you had to modify them a little bit. You stick quite well to that, Jochen, but still, that's because you have this very short timeline. We do not have so much time anymore for questions, and I did give you some homework, but I'm a bit afraid that maybe we should not spend too much time on it, because we are already at the beginning of the coffee break, and you also need to have some relaxation. But is there anybody in this room who says, I have a very big problem with what was said over here, and I really want to raise my voice now to say this is impossible, and so on and so forth? Or do you... There is somebody, okay. What a pity. And why did you make me aware of that? I thought I could come easy away with it, but now I can't.
Everybody is impatient, so you can maybe listen to me. I have a comment, actually, it's not really a question, particularly to the first and last presentations, in relation to the challenges related to the border transition. I like to give the comment with my hat as the ESC test manager and assisting for getting the authorization. There's actually a simple solution that could basically solve the 80% of the problem when feasible to be implemented. Actually, by simply making sure that the transition, the ETCS transition, happens before the physical transition. Make all the transition in one country, and if really necessary, duplicate the transition. In this way, you can basically do the test in one country, and you get basically, with agreements, of course, automatically the authorization also to run through the other country. It's a simple solution, but unfortunately, we don't really see it much in practice. When we see it, it makes life really easy. I have managed many projects where we can easily get authorization, but I have seen also an update of the track side, the same, where they made the upgrade, where they have installed the transition on the other country. And then we get into the headache of getting the test authorization for 2 countries, and they're trying to respect the requirements for every country, and you can't imagine the time and the resources that are wasted into that. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your suggestion. I'm sure that some of us have already thought a little bit about it, and I cannot immediately say whether or not this is all possible or not, but it's certainly something to be considered further. And as you can see, there's a lot of food for thought anyway if you listen to the stories of the gentleman over here on the floor. So if you agree with me, then we stop for now. Apologies also for those who have made all these Slido questions, but I think all these stories were so interesting that I thought I should allow for that, and now the time has run up. So enjoy the coffee break, and we hope to see you back 20 minutes past 5 for the last session of today. Sorry guys, you've been waiting so long and now you cannot answer the question.